Q and Review, celebrating 40 years of audio production, welcomes you to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports Podcast, recorded from our studio in the Bishopbriggs Media Centre and by our volunteers working from home. Keep up to date with Q and Review news via our Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, or Instagram at Q and Review. That's @CUEANDREW, or get in touch with us directly by emailing information@qandreview.com. That's INFORMATION @CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling us on 0141 772 3979. Please like and share our podcast and give us constructive feedback.
Evening Times Sport, November 22. The Willie Limond Bond. Report by Graham McPherson. That Willie Limond's legacy would endure long after his passing was never really in question. It can be felt most keenly in his two sons, Jake and Drew, who had already been inspired to follow him into the world of professional boxing, and who continue to take the Limond name forward 7 months after their dad's shock death at the age of just 45. A lifetime committed to the discipline is reflected both in the honours Limond collected. He became European, British and Commonwealth champion, and the people he encountered and befriended along the way. One of those was Frank Warren, head of Queensberry Promotions and a well-kent face throughout the world of boxing. Limond had competed on many of Warren's shows back in the day, and the pair formed a lasting bond. That friendship gave Limond a platform many years later to arrange a meeting with Warren to see if Queensberry might consider working with Drew, at that time a talented amateur prospect on the cusp of turning over. That encounter took place just weeks before Limond's tragic death, but Warren has remained true to his promise by signing Drew and giving him a helping hand at the start of his professional journey. Still just 18 years old, Drew made his debut on the same card as Jake on an emotionally charged night in Renfrew in August, recording a shutout points victory. Now he is set for his first Queensberry appearance at the Brewery in London tonight, where veteran journeyman Paul Cummings will ease him into the swing of things with 4 probing rounds. The pain of losing Willie, who was as much a friend as he was a father, naturally still stings, but Drew admits he owes so much to his dad as he opens the book on his own promising pro career. He reveals, "You cannot turn pro until you're 18, and I was in 2 minds about it as I was in the Scotland amateur team. It was a good setup and I was going abroad a lot to fight, but I was leaning towards turning pro and my dad just said, 'I'll just speak to Frank,' and that was that. That was maybe a year ago, and he got the ball rolling. He set up that meeting. Frank agreed to taking me on. We got talking and I signed. So I'm really grateful to my dad for doing that for me. He said he could see my potential and wanted the best for me, like he did for all of us. Having Queensberry's backing means a lot. It gives me a platform to fight on, a bit of financial security, and having my fights on TV on TNT Sport, and then DAZN next year. He is going to get my name out there and help me get sponsors. It's a big help when you're just starting out, I think Jake's pretty happy for me too. He's always trying to tap me for money. Drew was originally penciled in to make his Queensberry debut earlier this month on the undercard of the IBO World Title Clash between Liam Davis and Shabazz Masood in Birmingham, only for a late change of plan. The venue and occasion tonight, a black tie boxing fundraising dinner, won't be quite as high profile, but the teenager is typically laid back about it all. I would fight anybody anywhere, he confirms, although whether his jokey White Sugar nickname is going to stick, he's less sure of. I wasn't bothered whether it was going to be as long as I got the chance to fight. I don't think this one's on the TV, as it's a charity event, but it lets me get settled in without there being too much drama. It would have been amazing to have been on the Davis versus Masood card, but I didn't dwell on it too much when it got changed. Things like that happen all the time, and you just move on. Limond, like his dad and brother, is managed by the St Andrews Sporting Club and will continue to be guided jointly by its owner, Ian Wilson, and Warren with regards to the best way forward. A series of 4-rounders on both sides of the border are planned for the first phase of his development before hopefully progressing to bigger and longer challenges. I had a meeting with Frank, my dad, and Ian right at the start, which went well. And then more recently I've been dealing with Frank's number 2, Andy Ayling, as Limond, who trains under Michael McGurk at the Mania Gym. Frank's happy for me to fight in Scotland as well, so I'll imagine I'll be on a few of Ian's shows too. Naturally, his father's shadow still looms over everything. His death has left a huge void in all of their lives, but like Jake, Drew is stoically getting on with things. It's what his dad would have wanted. And he adds, it was always going to be hard to move on from what happened. My dad was a larger-than-life character, and you're always going to miss someone like that. But I've been in the gym since I was 6. I don't know anything else. I've been sparring pros since I was 13 years old, so I'm ready for it. Report by Graham McPherson. Evening Times Sport, November 22. Dumbarton surpass £50,000 fundraising target. Report by Aidan MacDonald. Dumbarton Football Club have surpassed their £50,000 fundraising target with a new aim now set. The Suns went into administration on Monday after club officials announced they were left with no option after appointing Quantuma, a business advisory firm, to manage the process. Police Scotland confirmed yesterday that inquiries are ongoing into a report of suspected fraud at the club. The GoFundMe, which was set up on the day the club was plunged into administration, currently sits at £58,000, with a new target of £100,000 being set. The fundraiser reads, "Support the Fighting Fund to save our club." Due to the club not receiving financial support from the majority shareholder or monies owed to it, the directors took the hard decision to put the club into administration in order to find a solution to overcome its financial challenges. We would greatly appreciate any support you can give. The club's financial troubles have since led to them being deducted 15 points by the Scottish Professional Football League, which puts them bottom of Scottish League One. The most recent accounts for the Dumbarton Football Club, covering the year to May 31, 2023, show that the club was due to receive gross proceeds of £1,848,000 from the sale of land to a related party. It sold a piece of land on April 29, 2021 to More Homes DFC Limited, a subsidiary of the club's majority shareholder, Cognitive Capital. The balance of the £1,848,800 was due to be paid in instalments of £300,000 in April 2023 and £1,548,000 in April 2026. However, the total amount remains outstanding, note the accounts, which state that the recovery of the money is dependent on the successful completion of a residential development on the land sold. Report by Aidan MacDonald. Evening Times Sport, November 22. Time flies as intrepid David Drysdale eyes senior golf. Report by Nick Roger. When you get to a certain vintage, everything can become a bit of a hassle. The rigmarole, for instance, of catching a flight and muddling through the associated palavers, plooters, faffs and footers can often generate the kind of turbulent groan that would have fellow plane passengers adopting the brace position. Golfers, on the other hand, are made of sterner stuff. He may be inching towards his half-century, but David Drysdale's energy and enthusiasm for the profession that is his passion remains undiminished. We got home from a flight from Florida on Saturday, unpacked, packed again, and got onto a flight to Hong Kong the next morning. He said of the here, there and everywhere whirl, that's par for the course in this business. You're in the door and out again. After 25 years of this, I know what I'm doing, and I still love it. I'm kind of numb to all the travel. It doesn't bother me. This is all I know and all I've done. Drysdale is certainly not done and dusted either. He may be struggling to retain his Asian tour card. This week's Hong Kong Open is his penultimate event of the campaign. But the prospect of a new lease of golfing life on the senior scene is keeping the competitive fires stoked. Last week in Tampa, the intrepid Drysdale negotiated his way over the first hurdle of the Champions Tour qualifying school process. The 2025 over 50 circuit in the United States will offer total prize money of around $70 million, the highest in its 45-year history. Earing the lucrative opportunity to dip your bread in that sloshing gravy bowl won't be easy. Only 5 players earn cards at the forthcoming Q School final. It's ridiculous really, said Drysdale, of a daunting task that's akin to breaking into Fort Knox with a spurtle. It's probably the toughest Q School of the lot, but I'll give it my best shot. The safety net, of course, is the Legends Tour on this side of the pond. As a stalwart of the regular DP World Tour for over 2 decades, Drysdale will have an exemption for the Golden Oldies circuit in Europe when he turns 50 in March. Just where did the time go? I can't believe I'm nearly 50, he said with a startled gasp. I was about 26 when I first came out on tour, so I wasn't that young compared to some of them now. But I'd be playing practice rounds with guys like Andrew Oldcorden and Gordon Brand Jr., who were about 40, and it'd be looking at them thinking they were ancient. Now the kids on the Asian tour are probably looking at me and saying, "Who's this grey-haired git?" He may be climbing the bray on the age front, but Drysdale has certainly enjoyed pitting his wits against the young uns on the Far East circuit. After losing his DP World Tour card in 2022, the Asian Tour has offered the Scot a competitive sanctuary as he builds towards the next chapter of his long career. It has been an education, and the standard of golf is as high as the readings on the temperature gauge. It's bloody hot, added the former Challenge Tour winner after recent outings in Indonesia and Thailand. It's been 35 degrees and 95% humidity. You're knocking back a bottle of water in every hole. Sometimes you get to the 12th, and the last thing on your mind is actually hitting a golf shot. It's almost about survival. But I've loved it out here. There are so many good players in Asia, loads of young Koreans and Thais who people back home will never have heard of, but you play with them and think, wow. I've not played that badly this season, but there have been loads of 4, 5 or 6 undercuts. It's a strong standard. During an admirable shift at the coalface, Drysdale racked up 575 appearances on the DP World Tour. In that time he posted 4 second-place finishes, but a victory eluded him and he reflected. All in all, it's been a reasonable career, but you always want more. That's just a golfer's nature. You always think you could have done this or should have done that. It's been a long grind, but an enjoyable one. As he prepares to become a rookie again among the Aldians, the indefatigable Drysdale is still putting in the hard yards and clocking up the air miles, says Nick Roger. Evening Times Sport, November 22. Alistair Johnston signs long-term Celtic contract. Report by David Irwin. Alistair Johnston has signed a new long-term contract at Celtic. The 26-year-old defender will remain at the Parkhead club until at least 2029. Commenting on his new deal, Johnston said, "I am just delighted to extend my contract with the club. I got a brilliant welcome in 2022, and ever since I have had the best of times, loving every minute as part of such a great institution, and I wanted to continue to be part of that. It is an absolute honour to pull that famous jersey on every week, and to have achieved so much success with my teammates has been so satisfying. But of course we want more, and that is our focus. It is a real delight to be working day in, day out in such a great setup, working with the gaffer and the staff who have such ambition for success, and with such a great group of lads in the team. Of course my teammates have been everything to me. It is a brilliant dressing room. I am privileged to be part of it, with real quality guys beside me, and I know we are all collectively looking to work as hard as we can to bring our fans even more success over the next few years." Brendan Rodgers added, "It is fantastic news for the club and our fans that Ali has agreed this new contract. In a relatively short period of time, he has established himself as a fantastic player for Celtic, showing real quality and just delivering performances after performances for us, week in, week out. He has a phenomenal work ethic and attitude, brilliant hunger and positivity, such an honest love for the game, and a real desire to improve in everything he does. These are the qualities which make a great player, and he has certainly been that for Celtic. Everyone at the club felt it crucial that we extend Ali's contract with Celtic, and I am delighted that we have been able to do this." Report by David Irwin. Evening Times Sport, November 22. Graham McGarry says, Motherwell may be getting results, but do they also have a duty to entertain? We've all got one, that pal that's never happy. To steal a line from friends I may have used before, the sort of guy that complains that his wallet is too small for his 50s and his diamond shoes are too tight. Mine is called Davy. I'm actually having a bit of fun here at good old Davy's expense. So, as in other areas of his life, he can sometimes even be an upbeat sort. But when it comes to watching Motherwell, he has certainly leaned into the persona of the grumpy middle-aged man since making his move to Fir Park's main stand. So it was that he pulled me up last week, beseeching me to do something on the style of play we are currently witnessing under the stewardship of Stuart Kettlewell. Now, those who don't watch Motherwell every week, and probably a great many who do, may wonder what on earth any Motherwell fan has to moan about at the minute. Kettlewell has the team flying high in 5th place after all, level on points with Dundee United in 4th, having played a game less, and 4 clear of St Mirren's 6th, with 2 games in hand on the Buddies. Not only that, the team had just contested a National Cup semi-final at Hampden, losing out narrowly to Rangers. In fairness though, that isn't really his gripe, and his complaint is one I have heard from more than a few Motherwell supporters, despite the side's impressive start to the season, in terms of results at least. And worryingly, it brought back memories of a similar debate that occurred during the Graham Alexander reign around the style of play. It is no secret that Motherwell are quite happy to let the opposition have the ball for the most part, averaging just 39% possession across their 11 league games this season. And just because a team is set up to counter-attack does not mean they cannot be entertaining to watch. In fact, particularly since the pace of Marvin Kaleta and Tawanda Maswanis has been introduced into the side, Motherwell can be thrilling as they turn attack into defence, moving from one end of the field to the other in the blink of an eye. That is how they got their opener against St Johnstone last time out, with some nice play between Lennon Miller and Steve Seddon, allowing the latter to pick out the marauding Kaleta up the right, who duly found Mazwanis at the back post to head home. Until that moment though, 20 minutes into the contest, and for long spells thereafter, the home fans had been treated to not very much at all, apart from the Saints players knocking it around between one another. The match ended with Motherwell having 33% of the ball, but it would be remiss not to point out all 3 of the points on offer. Ironically, the early grumblings from St Johnstone fans in the reign of former Fir Park favourite Simo Valakari is that their side is built on style over substance, and that for all of their easy on-the-eye play, they are too soft in both boxes. So far this term, Motherwell certainly cannot be accused of that, outperforming their expected goals at one end and conceding the 5th fewest goals in the league at the other. Does it matter then that sometimes the football on display is a tough watch? Not as much as the end result, certainly, but I think it probably does matter nonetheless. Most of the grumbles around just now probably stem from the Cup semi-final against Rangers, where, despite still being in the game until the latter stages, the team never really put themselves in a position to win it once the Ibrox side had drawn level. The approach was rather timid, in fact, with that frustration heightened because of the brittle levels of confidence within the Rangers' ranks at the time. Don't get me wrong, I would certainly rather be in Motherwell's position in the league than St Johnstone's, for instance, but there are lessons from the Alexander era that Kettlewell may do well to heed for if and when those results dry up. I sense that he is looking to evolve the team in that direction though. He has done a great job to date in getting Motherwell to where they are on a meagre budget, while also, crucially, blooding youngsters into the side. Is it too much to ask then that performances start to match the impressive results to date? Probably. But we're football fans, and that is what we do. Well, Davy does, at least, says Graham McGarry. Evening Times Sport, November 22. PlaySport Golf looks to the future under new ownership. Report by Christy Dorsey. PlaySport Golf in East Kilbride was opened in August 2009 by the late Sandy Jones, Chief Executive of the PGA, and professional golfer Colin Montgomery, who at that time was captain of Europe's Ryder Cup team. The wider PlaySport complex was a project headed by Kilmartin Property Group, which aimed to bring together various sports-based operators into a single leisure destination. The financial crisis put the brakes on these ambitions, though operators such as PlaySport Golf, American Golf, and Fives Football continued to trade there. The PlaySport complex was purchased in 2022 by SART Investments, the investment vehicle owned by Steve Timoney and his wife Alison. It is now home to their Caledonia Gladiators basketball team. Here, General Manager Colin McEwen talks about the evolution of PlaySport Golf, which welcomes more than 100,000 visitors annually to its course and practice facilities. Who owns PlaySport? Golf East Kilbride Limited, which trades as PlaySport Golf, was incorporated in December 2008 by Ian Young, who owns and operates the successful Braid Hills Golf Centre in Edinburgh, following discussions with Kilmartin Property Group. I joined Ian in May 2009 to open and operate the golf facilities at PlaySport, became an investor in the business in 2011, and eventually purchased it from Ian in March 2024. Kilmartin was one of the casualties of the Lloyds acquisition of HBOS in the wake of the financial crisis, and went into administration in 2010. This left PlaySport under the control of owners who were generally not interested in the development of the complex. We have a membership of around 600 for the course, which increased considerably following the lifting of lockdown restrictions, and has stayed at the higher figure since, with options for full, intermediate, senior, weekday, and juniors. Our main facility is the 56-bay practice range, which is spread over 2 levels and incorporates a 5-bay PGA coaching centre. Membership of the course brings huge savings on the range, and we also offer several options for pay-to-play range customers and practice account customers. How many people visit each year, and what level of golfing ability do you serve? The practice range and PGA coaching centre caters for well over 100,000 visitors each year, with the course being pretty much fully booked each day from March to October through membership and visitor play. Both the range and course cater for every level of golfer, from complete beginners, who we aim to help through their golfing journey with coaching and accessible and affordable practice and play. What's new this year at PlaySport Golf? Whilst not being new this year, the late 2022 installation of Top Tracer range still feels very new and has been an absolute game changer for the business. Top Tracer range is, in my opinion, the best technology solution for golf practice facilities and offers our customers the chance to play virtual golf and games with friends, as well as working on their game using skill-based modes such as My Practice, T12 and T30, all of which are available for the customers to review via their app. What's in store for the coming season? We have recently refurbished our PGA coaching centre and increased the number of bays available to accommodate the 6 pros we now have coaching at PlaySport Golf. All bays have been fitted with Top Tracer range technology, which allows customers to link range practice and coaching on one platform via Top Tracer Coach, and I am looking forward to further developing the coaching side of our business in 2025 with further facility changes and new programs delivered by our coaching team. What do you love most about the game? Golf, whether on the course or the range, is a fantastic way to bring people together, which we see every day with families and friends enjoying quality time together. Deep down, everyone has that competitive edge, which comes out no matter what level you play, and in golf, the competition is as much against yourself as those you are playing with and against. The fact everyone can play and enjoy the game both on and off the course is what I love the most. Report by Kirsty Dorsey. Evening Times Sport, November 22. Rangers announce commercial shirt deal bigger than any in club history. Report by Johnny McFarlane. Rangers have continued their commercial strides by announcing what is understood to be the biggest back-of-shirt deal in the club's history. The agreement with GovaPay, a global fintech company, which offers users a unified way to spend and manage money, is 45% bigger than any other in the club's history. As part of what's described as a multi-year agreement, the company will become the official Ibrox payment partner and will be the brand of terminals used around the stadium for purchasing items. The logo of its payment platform app, My Gueva, will be shown on the lower back of first team shirts for the first time on Saturday during the match with Dundee United. Rangers Chief Commercial Officer Karim Virani commented, "We are delighted to announce this company as our new official lower back-of-shirt partner. As a global brand transforming traditional markets through innovative technology, they have aligned closely with the principles and ambitions of Rangers Football Club. Their commitment to leveraging technology to enhance experiences resonates with our own dedication to improving every aspect of our supporters' journey. We are excited about the opportunities this partnership presents and look forward to an exciting collaboration in the years ahead." Report by Johnny McFarlane. Evening Times Sport, November 22. Rangers kids' parents ask advice, and I always tell them the same thing, says Barry Ferguson. Report by Johnny McFarlane. Delighted that Barry Ferguson is not joining those Rangers fans underwhelmed by the appointment of Nils Koppen as sporting director. The treble-winning captain, who came into the team as a kid under Walter Smith and Dick Advocaat at the turn of the century, was delighted to hear the Belgian talk about the importance of the academy in his plans. Ferguson is particularly happy to hear that Koppen intends to bring the Rangers' DNA into the building via appointments of former successful players to the training centre staff. He told the Daily Record, "When you listen to Koppen talk about his aims and ambitions for improving that side of the club, you can hear the passion in his voice. He has spoken about the importance of youngsters who have the right DNA and the will to win over and above their natural ability. It matters to him. He really gets it. And if that's going to be his driving aim, then he might just be the right man in the right place after all. I have spoken to quite a lot of parents I've bumped into over the years and told them exactly the same thing. Ability is great, but if your boy is going to make it as a professional, he needs to have a strong mentality and a bit of character about him." Nils seems to be on the same page in that regard, and I really like the fact that he's now talking about bringing in former players to help assist and support the young players and the coaching staff in terms of what is required to be a success at Rangers. It's all about helping the club to progress and get better, and it goes without saying that, as former players, we would do everything we can to make that happen. But I'm not the only one who understands what it takes. There are plenty of guys out there, and a lot of them are my old teammates, who are qualified as coaches and who have every bit as much to offer. If Koppen reaches out to some of these guys and brings them on board, then it can only be a good thing for the football club, and that's what every single one of us wants. You don't stop caring about the best interests of Rangers when you leave the club or hang up your boots. You carry a responsibility to do what you can, wherever or whenever you are needed. Ask any of the guys, and to a man they'll almost all say the same thing. That's what makes it such a very special football club. Evening Times Sport, November 22. St Mirren contract admissions as players still to sign. Report by David Irvin. St Mirren manager Stephen Robinson has admitted no progress has been made on new deals for Richard Taylor or Toyosi Oluseanya. Club chiefs have been desperate to tie down the pair to new contracts, with their current terms expiring in the summer. Offers had been tabled to the pair, with further offers now made, but no agreement has been reached with the players and their representatives. Robinson, who signed both players in Paisley, has not given up on possible deals, but admitted the club may not be able to offer anything above the very good terms currently available to the pair. Said Robinson, "There has been no progress on that at the moment. We have made further offers to both players, but it looks at this moment that we probably will not be able to come to an agreement, which we respect. We won't give up. We're still very early, and we'll see where we are come the end of January, if we can go any further than that. But they are very good offers from the football club, so I'm not sure we can." Robinson has, however, convinced backup goalkeeper Peter Arminsky to follow Greg Kiltie and Marcus Fraser in signing new deals, and added, Arminsky has agreed a new contract which we believe is a really good up-and-coming young goalkeeper. So lots of good stuff, as well as the boys who have not signed. Report by David Irvin.
From the Glasgow Times, Saturday, 23rd of November, from the sports section. Ex-Celtic boss masterminds box office thrashing of English champions. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Ange Postecoglou has experienced his fair share of doubters since taking up the managerial role at Tottenham Hotspur in July 2023. But he may have just led Spurs to the biggest and most eye-catching result of his tenure so far, beating the reigning English Premier League champions away from home. Spurs were 4-0 winners against Manchester City at the Etihad Stadium, with James Maddison, who was celebrating his 28th birthday, netting a first-half double, before Pedro Porro and Brennan Johnson also got on the score sheet. It is the first time in his career that Pep Guardiola has lost 5 consecutive matches. That outcome has propelled Spurs into 6th place, while Manchester City stay second, 5 points behind leaders Liverpool, who visit Southampton on Sunday. Making a sly dig at the Postecoglou sceptics down south, Celtic hero Chris Sutton took to X at full time and said, "I can really see why some people thought Ange is under real pressure at Spurs. Spurs are box office under Postecoglou." It was a noteworthy conclusion to Manchester City's 52-match unbeaten streak at the Etihad, a remarkable run that dated back to November 2022, and Postecoglou, who won 5 trophies during his 2-season spell at Celtic, believes the style of football his men played proved the difference on their travels. "Proud of the lads," he told BBC Sport. "To come to City at their place is a daunting prospect. It challenges every part of you. A bit of everything today. We had to be disciplined and work hard, and play decent football, and we did that. Our football was the difference today. Outstanding performance. You have to be clinical. They won't give you too many opportunities. There was a calmness and maturity about how we handled the ball. Against City, you can get spooked and don't want to play against them, but you have to play. They test you in every way, mentally, physically, tactically. Our flat spots have been really flat and something we need to eradicate. We're a much better team this year than last year. We just need to find consistency." And that report was by Robbie Hanratty. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 23rd of November, from his sports section. Kyogo leads the line. Celtic team to face Hearts revealed. By Robbie Hanratty. Brendan Rodgers has picked his Celtic team to take on Heart of Midlothian tonight. Storm Baird has caused chaos to the SPFL schedule today, with many of the Premiership ties kicking off later than anticipated. It's been a day of top-flight drama, as Rangers dropped points against Dundee United, while Aberdeen's unbeaten league run was ended by St Mirren. In this evening's clash at Tynecastle, Rodgers has made 2 changes from last time out, with Adam Ida and Liam Scales dropping to the bench in place of Kyogo Furuhashi and Cameron Carter-Vickers. Kasper Schmeichel starts in goal, with a back 4 of Alistair Johnson, Carter-Vickers, Austin Trusty and Greg Taylor. Captain Callum McGregor partners Rio Hatate and Aaron Engels in midfield, while Nicholas Kuhn and Daizen Maeda are tasked with supporting Furuhashi up front. And the article was by Robbie Hanratty. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 23rd of November, from the sports section. Rangers 1, Dundee United 1. Cerny rescues point after Dalby opener. Report by Martin McMillan. Philip Clement found himself under scrutiny yet again after Rangers struggled to a 1-1 draw with Dundee United at Ibrox in another William Hill Premiership setback. On a day which saw the Scottish fixture list badly affected by the snow and rain of Storm Bert, the Taysiders were held up by traffic problems on their way to Govan, which put the kick-off back 45 minutes initially, before it turned out to be 55 minutes of waiting for the Hardy punters. Unmarked Tannadice star Sam Dalby still put the visitors ahead in the 36th minute with a header, and frustrated Gers fans booed their side off at the interval. Rangers had lacked pace, purpose and conviction in the first half, but they got back on level terms in the 66th minute through winger Vaclav Cerny. But even 8 minutes could not bring about a winner for the home side, as Jim Goodwin's men held out. The improved second half performance, however, would do little to persuade the many sceptics that he is the man to take the club forward, although they gained a point in second placed Aberdeen and are now 8 behind the Dons. The international break had brought more injury problems for the Belgian boss, with defender Nereshahu Kazimiorgi out for an extended period after the Feyenoord loanee injured his knee playing for Netherlands under-21s against England. Dujon Sterling replaced captain James Tavernier at right back, with Robin Proper taking over from Liam Balogun in the centre of defence. United, who had asked for the kick-off to be pushed back further than 45 minutes, made 2 changes. Goodwin brought in Kai Fotheringham and Glenn Middleton for Emmanuel Adigboyega and Jort van der Sande, who were both on the bench. United started the day 3 points behind Rangers, having played a game more, but with 1 win in 4 games. Goodwin wanted his side to create some nervous tension among the Ibrox crowd, and they were helped by that task by another tentative start by the home side. United goalkeeper Jack Bolton made decent saves from drives from Cerny and midfielder Nicholas Raskin, before an even better save from Nejim Bajami's curling shot, pushing the ball behind for a corner which came to nothing. The home fans soon had more to moan about when Dalby, on loan from Wrexham, headed across from Vikos Sevilla past Rangers keeper Jack Butland in the 36th minute, with a long VAR check confirming the goal, his 5th in 6 games. Rangers defender John Sutter's block from Fotheringham's shot prevented a second goal for the visitors just before the break, and, although Proper had the ball in the United net moments later, referee Don Robertson blew for an early Conor Barron handball, his decision backed up by VAR. For the start of the second half, Danilo took over from the anonymous Cyril Dessers, with midfielder Yanis Hadji on for the equally ineffective Mohamed Diamande. However, United captain David Babunski headed wide of the target 4 minutes after the restart to puncture any optimism the substitutions may have had. In the 55th minute, Danilo missed the target from 8 yards from a Cerny cutback, before the Czech Republic international flashed a powerful drive from the edge of the box just past the post. However, Wolfsburg loanee Cerny was more accurate with his next effort, playing a 1-2 with Danilo inside the box and curving the ball past Walton and into the far corner of the net from 8 yards for his 7th goal of the season. The Ibrox side pushed with more menace. Walton saved at the feet of Danilo before Cerny had the ball in the net but was clearly yards offside. Rangers came close to snatching a second in the 86th minute when Walton parried a long-distance drive from Hadji before Danilo's follow-up shot was blocked, and then the United keeper made a desperate save at close range from Proper. Walton made a fine save from Gers substitute Hamza Igamani in added time, but, yet again, Rangers came up short. Their fans vented their disapproval, and the beleaguered boss limps on. And that article was written by Martin McMillan and read by me, Ian McKenna.
Evening Times Sport, November 25. Club Bruges star says it is up to us to silence crowd. Report by Mark Walker. Swiss international Ardon Jashari has insisted that Celtic's famous Champions League white-hot atmosphere holds no fear for Club Bruges ahead of tomorrow's showdown. The Hoops welcome the Belgian side, with both teams boosted by big weekend wins. Celtic eventually powered to a 4-1 win at Hearts, while Club Bruges romped to a 7-0 win against San Trudense in their league. And Jashari, who cost Bruges £6 million in the summer from homeland club Luzerne, insists they will not be intimidated by the Parkhead crowd. He said, "There were no celebrations after the weekend win because we have a difficult away match against Celtic, and we know that the Scots can be very strong at home. It is up to us to silence their fans. I thought we played very well, and it was a perfect way to prepare for such an important match. The most important thing for us was it showed we could bounce back so well to what was a disappointing result at Beerschot in our previous game. We had to react, and we did. Now we have to show we can perform at the same level in Glasgow. A win at Celtic would be a big step to reaching the next round." Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, November 25. Celtic's AGM is a strange but intoxicating affair, says Joe Donnelly. From the sublime to the ridiculous, depending on where your Google search lands, the age-old adage is most often attributed to either French diplomat Talleyrand, Napoleon, or historian Jean-François Marmontel, the latter of whom would have uttered the words in the mid-18th century. Fast forward 300 years and the sentiment still applies to the post-results question and answer section of the annual Celtic AGM. From rambling comedic monologues to scathing personal swipes at members of the top table's family, tongue-in-cheek reference to Francis Ford Coppola's 1972 gangster epic, The Godfather, and genuinely heartfelt complaints about the perceivable ills of pyrotechnics in stadiums, and how the mounting UEFA fines the Parkhead Club receive every season could help feed people in need at this time of year. There is an enduring, simultaneously tragic and pantomime-like element to every one of these occasions. Of course, the tone sits a lot more comfortably when the team is performing on the pitch. An unbeaten start to the Scottish Premiership, combined with a place in this season's Premier Sports Cup final, 7 points from 4 games in the UEFA Champions League, and now within touching distance of a place in the New Look competition's play-off round, and things could certainly be worse for manager Brendan Rodgers and his players. That tone sits comfortably when things are so rosy off it, with £77.2 million in the bank, a group revenue increase from £119.9 million to £124.6 million, and pre-tax profit of £17.8 a year on year. It's worth noting these numbers don't include this summer's transfer activity or the club's 2024-25 UEFA Champions League earnings. Celtic are clearly in the green in more ways than one. Much of the opening stretch of the Celtic AGM last Friday spoke to that. Video montage of the men's and women's teams scoring goals and lifting trophies were played on screens dotted around a function suite at Celtic Park, punctuated by talking head segments of Rodgers and women's manager Elena Sadiku, illustrating their achievements. Chairman Peter Lowell did his own piece to camera, speaking on off-pitch matters, with Chief Executive Michael Nicholson flanked by Chief Financial Officer Chris Mackay, doing much of the same. Majority shareholder Dermot Desmond was absent on the day. The Irish entrepreneur's son Ross sat at the table in his stead, as 9 boilerplate resolutions were passed, ranging from the details within the club's annual report to the reappointment of Nicholson, non-executive board members Tom Allison and Brian Wilson, and, as you'd expect, Desmond himself. When the meeting was thrown to the crowd for its final hour, things kicked off in earnest. The diversity of the board was first questioned, with Lowell acknowledging the importance of providing a range of perspectives across race, age and gender among the club's figureheads in future considerations. A 7-minute question-cum impassioned soliloquy was next delivered by an older gentleman who fired wistful potshots at the introduction of VAR in Scottish football, while for some reason likening Nicholson to Michael Corleone, Rogers as the hitman, and former Lisbon Lion and current kit controller John Clark as the kit man. A serious message punctured the room's levity when a disabled supporter called for universal transparency at the club, framing his point around experienced issues with Celtic Park's accessible seating, but ultimately extending his sentiments to the wider year-to-year operation of the business. A shareholder suggestion that singer Rod Stewart should be more visible in the money he invests in Celtic followed, before two successive fans called for the stadium's south stand to be redeveloped to increase capacity. One in turn called for the reduction of ticket prices amid the ongoing cost of living crisis. The other suggested 1 million Celtic fans could crowdfund £100 per head to pay for the required renovations. Nicholson expressed his sympathies and called for humanitarian aid following events in Gaza when asked about a fan group who desired to formally meet with the club's hierarchy before another shareholder took aim at Mark Lowell, Peter's son, suggesting, not in so many words, that the former head of first-team scouting and recruitment's tenure as Celtic was unsuccessful. Peter Lowell expectedly took issue with the poser, saying, "I'm not going to give this question any credibility by answering it." Rogers, however, did say, "Mark did a fantastic job at Celtic. Look at Mark's influence in bringing Ange Postecoglou to the club. That was huge." If that was his only contribution, then he'd have done a fantastic job, but it wasn't. He was an influence in bringing in Ali Johnson and other players. I sit here in his defence, because he's a massive Celtic supporter. Like Peter, he comes from a massive Celtic family who want nothing but the best for the club. The Celtic end was discussed. The North Curve's proposed safe-standing expansion that would serve to relocate existing season tickets situated in the stadium's Jolstein stand. Nicholson duly acknowledged the demand, but is still going through the survey results from this summer's questionnaire, within which the fan-led initiative was indirectly addressed. The subject of the North Curve, the collective under which Ultras group the Green Brigade and the Boys sit, extended to fines for poor supporter behaviour. Nicholson added, "Poor behaviour is a long-standing issue, but it's not just a Celtic issue. It's not a perfect system," which is likely a fair summation of occasions like the annual Celtic AGM as a whole. Yes, the numbers look great. Yes, the montage illustrate a club in rude health. Yes, shareholders have their chance to put questions to the powers that be, serious or in jest. But it's far from a perfect system, one which too often sways from the sublime to the ridiculous, says Joe Donnelly. Evening Times Sport, November 25. Rangers January window no-brainer that solves James Tavernier problem, writes Matthew Lindsay. Venturing into a department store or supermarket at the moment, with jingle rock blaring out of loudspeakers, aisles stacked to the ceiling with overpriced tubs of Quality Street, and checkout assistants completely devoid of festive cheer, wearing sparkly Santa hats, is a harrowing experience. Do we really have to endure this vulgar orgy of rampant consumerism for endless weeks, for months even, every year? Could rapacious retailers not leave it until December at least, until they hang up the tinsel and fill their shelves with Yuletide logs, or Christmas Eve possibly? It always pays, of course, to look ahead, leaving your shopping until the last minute, something your Grinch-like correspondent is very guilty of, puts you at risk of not getting exactly what you are after. It is far better to move early and ensure you snap up the gifts your nearest and dearest desire. The same rule applies in football. Is it too soon to start thinking about what areas clubs need to strengthen during the January transfer window? Not at all. Recruitment gurus around the country have already identified numerous targets they believe can increase their prospects of success this season and beyond. Fans, too, are flooding social media with the names they want their heroes to go for. Some of them are even realistic. Top of Rangers supporters' wish list just now, and for some considerable time in fact, is a new right back. The dip in form that James Tavernier suffered towards the tail end of the 23-24 campaign, as the Ibrox club's Scottish title challenge unravelled, prompted many fans to call for him to be offloaded during the summer. His subdued performances this term have done little if anything to silence his detractors. There were certainly no angry protests in the stands when the Englishman was left on the bench in the William Hill Premiership against St Mirren Govan last month, or in the Europa League phase game against Olympiacos in Greece earlier this month. Quite the opposite. Yet there appears to be no obvious deputy for the Rangers captain. Neresho Kazanweo, the young Feyenoord loanee, slotted in on the right side of defence in the 2-1 win over St Mirren, and Dujon Sterling did so in the 1-1 draw with Olympiacos. Both men were perfectly decent, but neither of them really suggested they were significant upgrades on Tavernier in those outings. They certainly failed to contribute as much going forward as their much criticised and often unfairly maligned skipper has done on so many occasions in the past. Plus, Kazanweo is said to be unavailable for some time after suffering an injury in the Netherlands under-21 game against England under-21. So bringing in another specialist right back in January is necessary, not just desirable. Rangers have to address the issue now and must start making inquiries about prospective replacements to ensure they get in top quality cover next month once the window has opened. Fortunately for them, there is a ready-made standout there, a player who has proven himself at the highest level with both club and country, an individual whose attacking prowess and physical attributes are renowned, a defender who has a strong affinity with the Glasgow Giants and understands their expectations. Bringing back Nathan Patterson on loan from Everton is a no-brainer for them on so many different levels. The 23-year-old who moved to Goodison Park in a £11 million transfer back in 2022 has not been sighted since coming off with a tendon injury in a 6-0 defeat to Chelsea in April. He has, though, returned to training in recent weeks and has played, and by all accounts played well, for their under-23 side on more than one occasion. But will he be a regular starter in the first team on Merseyside when he is fully fit? There is no guarantee. His time down south has been disappointing. Rumours about his relationship with manager Sean Dyche persist. He has, as his poor displays for Scotland against the Netherlands and Northern Ireland in March highlighted, regressed rather than pushed on and fulfilled his vast potential. A return to the club where he launched his career may well be appealing to both him and his parent club. He desperately requires regular game time to force his way back into the national setup before the World Cup qualifiers get underway next year, and he would get that at Ibrox. Patterson is the only right-sided defender currently available to Dyche, with Seamus Coleman also out just now, and there is speculation he could make his comeback. But even if he does, and it is a big if, it is debatable that he has a long-term future at Everton. Going for a footballer who has been plagued with injuries for the past couple of years would, perhaps, be something of a gamble. Rangers can ill afford to have another highly paid player who spends more time on the treatment table than the pitch. They have quite enough of them. But signing Nathan Patterson, even just until the end of the season, could be the best Christmas present their supporters and their manager Philippe Clement could hope for, says Matthew Lindsay. Evening Times Sport, November 25. Golf. Former Scottish champion finds new path to fulfilment. Report by Nick Rodger. It's not easy pursuing a dream. There are a lot of people trying to do the same thing, said Ross Cameron, of the elbowing, jockeying, parrying and jousting that goes on along the hard, ruthless road towards the promised land of professional golf. Cameron never did make it to the main tour. It wasn't for the lack of trying, mind you. For over 20 years, the former Scottish PGA champion chipped away at so many coal faces, he just had to about gouge out clumps of soot from the grooves of his clubs. Here in 2024, Cameron is still heavily involved in the game that has been his life, but as a tournament controller, not a full-time player. As Johnny Mitchell didn't quite sing, I've looked at golf from both sides now. It's certainly been an eye-opening spell for Cameron in his new post with the PGA in Scotland. Chuckled the 45-year-old. I got through my 3-month review, but I've got a 6-month one too, so I'm not out of the woods yet. But it's been an education. A 13-plus hour day is quite common, and when you get a run of those, you begin to feel it. The job takes in everything, from initial planning of events to scheduling, discussions, conversations with host clubs and sponsors. When you get on site, you do draw sheets, pin positions and rulings. And what about dealing with the mutterings and moanings of the players? Professional golfers are always happy, he added with a wry chortle. Having been a player for so long, I do have a new appreciation of the work tournament controllers and referees do. A professional since he was 18, Cameron was a mainstay of the domestic tartan tour and made so many forays on the Alps Tour, the Pro Golf Tour, and the now defunct Euro Pro Tour. He could have written a Lonely Planet guide to the third-tier circuits of Europe. I was lucky. I had a good sponsor for nearly 20 years, said the former Northern Open champion, of the financial assistance that was provided in the main by Saltire Energy. That's almost unheard of. On the third tier you have high costs and you're playing for very little money. But you never give up on the dream. The longer you go on, of course, the more people ask the question, how long will you keep going? I never asked that of myself. I always said I'd stop when I'd run out of money or run out of enthusiasm. And I certainly didn't run out of enthusiasm. I always thought I could get better. You'll never master golf, but the constant quest for improvement pushed me on. I loved getting up early, going to the gym, practicing. Standing there hitting balls for hours and hours was never a hardship. The life of a touring golfer at any level can be a mind-mangling cocktail of success, failure, fear, pressure, hope and adventure. Cameron, who also took up seasonal work as a postman, barman and fish factory operator to help finance his ambitions, has wrestled with professional golf's complex demands for over 2 decades. As he embarks on this new chapter of his career, he has found a new path in his personal life too. He said, I became a Christian about a year ago. I got invited along to a local Christmas carol service by a friend. I found it modern and energetic, and I started going regularly. It's become a great addition to my life. For most of that life it's been golf and me, and that's been it. I now have this wider family around me, if you like. Professional golf can be a very lonely business. It sometimes needs to be, if you want to make it. You look at some of the guys who do really well, and they have a very small, tight community around them. For all these years, it's just been me, but I now have a much wider outlook. People might see the change in me more than I see it myself. I like to think the church has given me a fuller life. Cameron may not have fulfilled his dream of reaching the DP World Tour, but golf still provides a profession and a purpose. There's still some of that pressure too. I was studying for my rules exam recently and was panicking a bit, he gasped. There's so much to learn. In this game, you never stop doing that. Report by Nick Roger. Evening Times Sport, November 25. Rangers confirm new chief executive. Report by Ewan Payton. Patrick Stewart is the new chief executive of Rangers, the club has confirmed. The Scottish Premiership side made the announcement this morning. The former interim CEO of Manchester United has finally filled the position vacated by James Bisgrove in the summer after he jumped ship to move to Saudi Arabia. He will begin his role on Monday, December 16, the club said in a statement. Interim chairman John Gilligan commented, On behalf of the board, I am delighted to welcome Patrick to the club as CEO. Patrick comes with an excellent reputation and background, bringing extensive experience of operating at senior levels during his 20-plus years in football. The board continues in discussions with several excellent candidates for the role of chairperson and expect to make an announcement of an appointment in the coming weeks. Raised in Aberdeen, Stewart graduated from Glasgow University and worked initially as a lawyer in Scotland before joining Team Marketing, the agency responsible for UEFA club competitions, in 2001. He then moved to Manchester United in 2006 as General Counsel and Company Secretary and had responsibility for all legal and regulatory matters, with his role evolving to include commercial and operational matters. In 2019, Stewart joined the board of Manchester United with further responsibilities, including negotiating player contracts and co-leading on the creation of their professional women's team. In 2022, he became an executive director of United's New York Stock Exchange-listed parent, and his role grew further to include managing the club's relationships with the FA, the Premier League, and UEFA. In 2023, Stewart assumed the role of Chief Executive Officer and oversaw the completion of a material investment transaction, successfully integrating new shareholders and directors into the club and delivering operational stability during the period of transition. Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, November 25. Nice defender looks ahead to clash with Rangers. Report by Mark Walker. Nice defender Melvin Bard insists his side are reaching peak form at the right time as they aim to pile on the agony for Rangers. Ibrox boss Philippe Clement is under major pressure after a disastrous start to the season in the Premiership, where they have already fallen 11 points behind leaders Celtic after just a dozen games. However, they have performed far better in the Europa League, where they sit in 10th place out of the 36 teams, following 2 wins and a draw in the 4 games played in the new look format. They now face a huge test in France on Thursday against Nice. But while Rangers were being held to a home draw by Dundee United, Nice moved up to 5th spot in League One, following a 2-1 win against Strasbourg at the weekend. They have not lost a league game since the beginning of September, are unbeaten in 8 matches, and have only tasted defeat once at their Allianz Riviera ground in all competitions since March, and that was to French champions PSG. Bard, who scored at the weekend, reckons they're getting better with every game after 3 wins and a draw in their last 4 league outings, and said, "I do think we are improving every week, and you can see we are on a good run at the moment. It's a big week for the club, with European football too, and we are in a good place. We were behind at half-time, but we came back to win." Meanwhile, former Romania striker earmarks Yanis Hagi's next destination with a £2 million price tag. The former Romania striker Adrian Ilie has claimed that Hagi could sign for Borussia Mönchengladbach in a £2 million deal in January. Hagi came on as a half-time sub at the weekend to make just his 3rd appearance for Rangers since his contract dispute was resolved, but was unable to help relieve the pressure on Clement. Last week, he was urged to leave Ibrox by Romania manager Mircea Lekescu, and his father, George Hagi, issued a plea at the weekend for Clement to play his son more. Now former Valencia and Galatasaray ace Ilie, who is a friend of the Hagi family, claims to know that German clubs are keen on the player, with Mönchengladbach leading the way. He said, "I know there are teams from Germany who are interested in Yanis. Mönchengladbach are the main club. It would be better for him to sign for a team who are in the middle positions in the Bundesliga, and such a move would be good for him. Maybe we will have a discussion with his agent about it. I also discussed the situation with George Hagi." Giannis has to come in to play a few more matches, but there are Bundesliga teams that could pay for a transfer for him. I believe his club are asking for around €2 million. I think it's somewhere around that figure. The transfer would do him good. Give him a year to settle into football in Germany and watch him go. Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, November 25. Susan Egglestaff says, I love a gimmick, but sport's in danger of jumping the shark. I love a gimmick as much as the next person. In sport, there's countless tweaks that began as gimmicks, but ended up improving things considerably. Football's back pass rule has been an undisputed success. I'm very much in favour of tennis using a champion's tie-break in place of a limitless final set. The three-point line improved basketball as a spectacle infinitely. I much prefer 2020 cricket to the longer 50-over version. The Champions League, which was introduced as little more than a money-making idea, has become the greatest football tournament on the planet. There are, of course, gimmicks that fail spectacularly. Swimming's full-body shark suits damaged the integrity of the sport, and cricket's idea of the super sub was rapidly withdrawn after it became apparent it was definitely not improving the game. Generally, though, I'm all for new ideas and doing things a little differently. Last weekend, however, there was a sporting gimmick that was not just a step too far, but eons too far. In Dallas, Mike Tyson fought Jake Paul. On paper, the matchup was spectacularly uneven. One of the greatest fighters ever, taking on a glorified YouTuber. But of course, Tyson is now 58 years old and has not been a great boxer for decades. And 27-year-old Paul, in a dull and demeaning 8 rounds, defeated the former world heavyweight champion of the world on points. In principle, I have no real aversion to two men, neither of whom are currently even good boxers, never mind great boxers, stepping into the ring together. And certainly when you look at the stats, it becomes apparent exactly why this ridiculous bout was made. Nearly 80,000 spectators were in the arena to witness the spectacle, if you can call it that, firsthand. Netflix, which aired the fight, claim up to 120 million people watched, and the money involved is eye-watering. Paul reportedly made $40 million, while Tyson made half that at $20 million. For Paul particularly, it is a quite incredible sum, and makes him one of the highest-earning boxers on the planet this year, despite the fact he's little better than mediocre. There is, of course, little point in decrying Paul, or even Tyson, for this monstrosity. Only a fool would turn down those sums of money, and if anything, Paul should be studied as a master of marketing and promotion, given the status he has manufactured for himself, despite being only barely inside the world's top 100 cruiserweight fighters in the rankings. It's what this horror show represents that is far more worrying for the sporting world. The fight was the climax, if you can call it that, of Netflix's Countdown, which is a reality boxing series. It's the latest move in Netflix's foray into sport. Drive to Survive, the fly-on-the-wall series about Formula One, has been an overwhelming success, and while the likes of Breakpoint, Full Swing, and Sprint about tennis, golf, and athletics respectively have not had quite the same impact, They all have a similar template of showing what goes on behind the scenes at the very top of the sports. What has been the problem with these documentaries, though, is that no longer is the sport itself really the centerpiece. I know more than a few people who have watched Drive to Survive, yet have never sat through a full Formula One race. Similarly, countless viewers of Paul versus Tyson are not boxing fans. They're fans of entertainment. Fair enough. There's no commitment test that must be passed before one is given a pass to watch any sporting event. What concerns me, though, is where these gimmicks, and Paul against Tyson is the perfect example, render the real sport. While Tyson versus Paul was the headline fight, Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano was relegated to the undercard. That's fair in some respects in that it's doubtful these two women could have attracted a global audience of 120 million. But it is also depressing that this magnificent pair, who are two of the greatest female fighters to have ever lived, were relegated to little more than a warm-up act for Paul and Tyson. What is really important now is where sport goes from here. Netflix's boxing series is called Countdown, but what are we counting down to? The issue is, if Netflix is redefining the model for showing sport, and that seems to be the way things are going, then they cannot leave the ending to chance. Surely, in exactly the way scripted shows are written to guarantee a thrilling ending, Netflix will want to ensure the same happens with their sporting series. Few are suggesting that Paul against Tyson was fixed, but many are suggesting that there was an unwritten understanding between the pair, that they do everything in their power to ensure their bout was at least a half-decent spectacle for the millions of fee-paying watchers. And the thing is, as soon as there's even a hint of a deal between two or more competitors, it is no longer sport, it is purely entertainment. The two are entirely different things. The entire beauty of sport is based on the fact that literally anything can happen. Few who saw Paul hold back when he could so easily have finished off an aging Tyson last weekend believed that anything could happen in that fight. Instead, it was a case of making a highly controlled event as exciting as possible. Given the circumstances, they did little more than an average job of that. In the weeks since the fight, few commentators have called the fight anything close to a success. Hopefully then, it's a signal that this was a gimmick too far, because any further and sport truly will have jumped the shark, says Susan Egglestar.
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports Podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Q&Review and to tell your friends about our service